Hi, I am fairly new to using Reddit, but I have lurked on some subreddits before, including this one. Anyway, on to my problem. I, a 66-year-old female, I am retired but kept very busy by caring for my mother, 85, and my disabled husband. My mother does not live with us. She lives in an assisted living facility, where I visit her every few days to check up on her and see if she needs anything. During my latest visit, she brought up how I should finally kick out my daughter, 29. Let's call her Claire. Now, for some context, yes, my daughter does indeed still live with me and my husband, for many factors including her rather fragile mental health. But what my mother does not understand is that despite us being parent and child, we are not living in a parent and child kind of situation. We are roommates that just happen to also be family because neither her nor my husband and I could afford places of our own in this economy. We are dependent on Claire just as much as she is dependent on us. Claire holds down a full-time job, which doesn't pay great, but not awfully either. She pays her fair share in rent, utilities, and groceries, does her fair share of chores, and sometimes even takes over some of my chores when she feels that I need a break. I cook on weekdays when Claire has to work, but Claire has weekends off, so she takes over cooking duties then. She has a savings account for emergencies, she pays for the family Netflix account, and even spends some of the fun money she has left over every month, which isn't much, on little treats for my husband and me. No matter how often I ask her not to waste what little money she has to enjoy life on us. So with all of that as background, my mother's comments made me pretty angry, because Claire does so much to not be a burden to my husband and me, despite me telling her that I love her and could never see her as a burden. I also fear my mother may have planted that thought in her head when I wasn't around. Meanwhile, all my mother seems to do is demand, demand, demand. She has nurses at her disposal in that assisted living facility and people who do grocery runs for her, but she never uses these services and demands that I do everything for her instead. She demands all of my time, energy, and attention. I suspect she may want to push me to kick Claire out so she could move in with my husband and I and force me to be her full-time caretaker. I was already having a shitty day, so I just snapped and told her that Claire's living situation is none of her damn business. She started crying and asked why I would yell at her for just being concerned. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for snapping at my mother? Some comments. Top commenter? Not the a-hole. Parents of any age love to judge their kids' living and financial situations, even when they don't have all the information. The economy is in the shitter. I think it's nice that your daughter is staying at home and helping you out. Does your mom know about the financial situation? Do you want her to know? Maybe it's time for some tough love. Lower your visitations. Even if she is your mother, you don't owe her anything. Family does not have the right to ruin your peace. Original poster responded, "My mom knows about our financial situation, but she thinks that's no excuse." Commenter, "Does your mother pay include the grocery or nursing services, or are they extra? If inclusive, ask her why she is wasting your time and her money by not using services she has paid for. Doing that would help you a lot more than stopping supporting your daughter even if she was dependent, which she is not. If she is concerned about your workload, she has that in her power to help, but emphasize you'd still be around to see her." Original poster responded, "These services are included in my mother's rent, but she refuses to use them because the shoppers always get her the wrong items. She is very particular about what companies she wants to get her food from, and she is afraid that the nurses will rifle through her belongings and steal anything of value she has." Mom wanting to move in with original poster. Yes, that's my suspicion as well. I am still trying to figure out a slightly kinder way to say, I'd rather pull out my own fingernails than let you move in with me, even if C eventually moves out. Original poster replied about husband. My husband isn't Claire's father. I would even hesitate calling him her stepfather. I met him when she was 23 and married him when she was 26, so he came into her life a bit late to be a paternal figure. When they talked about it prior to us getting married, Claire told him that while he may have come into her life too late to be her father, in her eyes, there's no such thing as coming into someone's life too late to be family. So, while she doesn't see him as a father figure, she does see him as family, and they have a great relationship. With inside jokes even I don't understand at times, lol. Update 3 days later. Hello, everyone. First, I'd like to thank you all for your incredibly kind words and helpful advice. Yesterday, I sat with my daughter for our Easter tradition of getting together as a family and eating a big batch of my grandmother's pickled eggs. And while we ate and made a huge mess, which, if my grandma was to be believed, is essential to the eggs' taste, I reminded Claire that I love her and that she will always be welcome with my husband and me. She seemed a bit confused by it suddenly coming up, but thanked me and told me she loved me too. When I asked if she had spoken to her grandmother lately, she said no, she hadn't spoken to my mother since my birthday. Today, I drove to visit my mother again and have a talk about what happened, and it went surprisingly well. I started out by apologizing for snapping at her like that. Regardless of my mental state, I should not have gone on the attack like that, and I truly am sorry. I sadly am the type to bottle up my feelings instead of communicating them immediately, and it's something I know I need to work on. However, I also told my mother that I am not willing to talk about Claire's living situation with her and asked her to use the facility's services a bit more in the future, instead of always relying on me. Because I have a life of my own and a husband who also needs me, probably more than she does, but I didn't say that part out loud. She started crying again, asking why Claire and I hate her so much. She talked about how Claire never calls and only seems to acknowledge her existence when she absolutely has to, and has now also turned me against her. She asked if I was really so sure that Claire wouldn't eventually start ignoring me the way she is ignoring her. I was getting very impatient with her again, but I was prepared for it this time, and managed to stay calm and ask her to think back to her interactions with Claire over the past 5 years and the many moments of her being rude or downright cruel to Claire. I even named some specific instances Claire has told me about, and put herself in Claire's shoes. Would she want to spend any time with someone who treated her like that? I felt ridiculous talking to my 85-year-old mother like she is a 5-year-old child. But when I told her that we love her, but at times we do not feel particularly loved by her, it seemed to actually get through to her. She stopped crying and told me that she didn't realize that her comments hurt my daughter so badly. In my mother's defense, Claire, like me, has the habit of bottling up her feelings in the moment and disengaging instead of communicating, unless she feels she can 100% predict the other person's reaction. So she most likely never told my mother that these comments hurt her and just started distancing herself. My mother promised to use the facility's services more and in turn asked me if we could go out and do something fun every now and then. Her definition of fun is usually going to the casino, with a very strictly enforced budget, so we'll see about that. It doesn't sound terrible for some mother-daughter bonding time. I'm not sure how things will develop now, but I am hopeful. I will tell Claire what her grandmother and I talked about today, and see if she's maybe willing to give her the chance to make amends. I won't push her, though. Thank you again for all the helpful advice and encouragement.
So for quick context, my boyfriend bought us a new bed frame and mattress, but the frame came with a crack in one of the pieces. When he told Amazon, they just sent him another one. One day at work, an employee mentioned he was needing a new bed, so my boyfriend said he could have the one Amazon sent him if he didn't mind the broken piece. Well, he didn't, and he came to get it today. I know this person, and I do not like him for various reasons. My boyfriend told me the night before he was coming to get it. I said, cool, I'm not coming out of the bedroom unless I have to. He came and I vaguely heard them talking, but I was half asleep and didn't care. Then I heard my boyfriend say something about showing him our bed, and I heard him say that I was in there, but it was fine. I kind of froze, half asleep and confused until I heard them coming, and I pulled the blankets over my head as my boyfriend announced coming in. I said very loudly, "Why?" And they just came in. It was hot and stuffy under the covers. Thank God I wore baggy clothes and not my usual sleepwear. So I pulled the blankets down and the guy was just standing there in the doorway and awkwardly said, "Good morning." To which I replied very angrily, "Good morning" back, and probably looked like I wanted to end everyone there. So my boyfriend showed off the bed and started to leave, to which I snapped at him for not shutting the door behind him on his way out. I don't like leaving the door completely open because it's so awkward when his kid goes to the bathroom across the hall and we see each other when I'm trying to sleep. I just want it cracked enough that my cat can get in, and he knows this. Eventually the employee leaves and my boyfriend comes in, and I immediately sat up and told him I did not like that at all. He tries saying something in a sing-song voice that may have been a half-assed apology, but I cut him off saying, "I really didn't freaking like that at all." And he turned around and left without a word. I shut the door completely and laid down, just sort of locked up in place. My whole body sort of just felt heavy and my chest hurt, but I couldn't cry. But that was just so humiliating to have not only a man that does not belong in my bedroom there, but also him seeing me in my safe space. An absolute mess from sleeping was just horrible. Later, when I got up for work, my boyfriend left as soon as he knew I was moving, got his pants, and left without a word. On my way out, I very angrily texted him that since he decided to Irish goodbye me after hurting me that bad, I'd take the couch tonight. He didn't reply, and he was asleep when I got home, so on the couch I am now. I want to know if I'm the asshole for how I reacted, because I have a feeling that's how he's going to twist it when he does, or if he does, say anything at all. Some of original poster comments. Commenter, from your description, I hear them coming, and I pulled the blankets over my head as my boyfriend announced coming in. The guy was just standing there in the doorway and awkwardly said, "Good morning." Your boyfriend was being disrespectful to you and the buyer. The guy wanting to do the purchase also did not expect a sleeping human to be there. Note how the buyer was being respectful and your boyfriend was not. Again, with the boyfriend, I cut him off saying, "I really didn't freaking like that at all," and he turned around and left without a word. This is wild and weird. Does he usually ignore your feelings? Shut the door completely and lay down, just sort of locked up in place. My whole body sort of just felt heavy and my chest hurt, but I couldn't cry, but that was just so humiliating. It was humiliating and intrusive, not the a-hole. Please ensure your boyfriend wants you to be in a safe environment more than making a quick buck. Original poster replied, "I'm not sure how to quote stuff on here like you did, so I'll try answering in order. If it matters any, he was giving him the frame for free. He won't speak to me if he thinks I'm too emotional," which admittedly, I was definitely on fire at the moment, and we probably would have started a fight if he said anything but a heartfelt apology of some sort. I think he'd just tell me, "Oh, it's just so-and-so," because he doesn't care why I don't like the guy. He was my employee, we used to work together, and I was his boss. And he'd try to get me in trouble all the time because I'd tell him to do his job correctly. But this could just be me doom-dreading stories we haven't talked about yet, and I'm just sitting on the couch overthinking things. Haha. Thank you though, commenter, not the a-hole. Letting someone in your bedroom while you're sleeping is an asshole move, especially when it's someone he knows that you don't really like. He should have had the decency to wake you up before he even got there, so you could have moved somewhere else. Imagine how uncomfortable you would feel if you had been sleeping naked. Your boyfriend should have had you get up before any of this happened. Your boyfriend owes you an apology to you and the employee for what happens. Your boyfriend owes you another apology for just walking away from you after you expressed how much you didn't like what he did and not talking to you for the rest of the day. How childish. Original poster replied, "I specifically told him I wasn't leaving the room when he came unless I had to, too. I tend to sleep in a lot, and it was maybe normal get-up time for most people, 10:30-ish, I think. But when I told him that he didn't say anything about showing him the bed frame put together, I keep trying to remember if I heard the employee ask to see it or if he offered, but I wasn't awake enough and I wasn't trying to listen to begin with. I can't help but feel like he'd use me cutting him off against me. It just felt like he was saying it for the sake of saying it, you know? Nothing about his tone sounded sincere and it just made me snap. And that's why I'm not sure if I'm the asshole or not, because I guess I didn't give him a chance to apologize. Thank you for your input. Not the a-hole, you set clear boundaries and your man straight up ignored them. Bringing someone into your bedroom, your safe space without a real heads up or respect for your feelings is a foul move. Maybe snapping wasn't ideal, but he kinda asked for it by dismissing your comfort like that. Dude needs to quit playing and show some respect. Original poster replied, "Thank you, that makes me feel a lot better. I felt bad for snapping, but then I just got angry again thinking about it and wasn't sure if my anger was clouding my judgment on the matter. Commenter, please listen when I say this. This man does not respect you, and he will not grow to respect you before the relationship ends. And love is not a weapon that can combat disrespect. It is a burning sacrifice on the altar of his ego. Get rid of him. Original poster replied. Yeah, I'm starting to see a lot of people saying things he does on here without me even saying anything. Not the a-hole. I've been with my wife for 18 years. I would never cross that boundary with her, ever. I don't care if she was awake. If she is obviously uncomfortable with someone, I wouldn't put her in that position. And no one is getting into our bedroom without getting through me first. The hell is wrong with him? How long have you two been together? Because I feel like this is easily something he should have picked up on. Original poster replied, 3 years. End of this year will be our 4th. Technically, New Year's Eve is our anniversary. 3 issues have only happened in the last year and a half, I want to say. Commenter, the comment about his kid makes me think this goes way deeper than this. Original poster replied, it's an awkward situation. His kid was obviously with someone well before me, and I don't really want to go into too much detail because he isn't mine. But he basically got kicked out for lying about having a job, and now he lives with us, with his girlfriend. I don't blame my boyfriend for how he ended up because the mom had full custody and wasn't exactly the easiest to deal with as he grew up. It's not my place to tell him how to try and fix it. I just find it really awkward when people see me sleeping that aren't my boyfriend. That's about as deep as that goes. Awkward shyness. We kept the door wide open when we lived alone. To another commenter, yeah, admittedly, I probably shouldn't have mentioned the son at all. He's got nothing to do with it, and he's quite happy living in his room, rent-free with his girlfriend. Lol. More issues with her calling his son the kid. Yeah, he's a cool kid for the most part, but the mother wanted full custody after she got out of school. I'll say I could have worded my referral of him better, but his son was only mentioned in context to why I don't like the door being left open, and I really didn't think so many people would read this deeply into it like that. There's a very long and rather sad story about him with his son, one that is really not for me to tell a bunch of internet people. But it is a big reason why I love him. He really sacrificed a lot for that boy, and I genuinely can't stand how he treats his father now after all he did for him and still does for him. My boyfriend can be a heck, and he really screwed up this time with me, but he was never a bad father. If anything, he takes his stress and anger out on me, and maybe I do the same too, but there are lines not to cross. But yeah, I'll try referring to him more as his son. Admittedly, I call him kid as much as I do because sometimes so does my boyfriend when it's not his actual name. Mini update 6 hours later. There's a lot of comments, more than I expected. I want to start by saying thank you all, even the ones that said I was the asshole but gave a polite reason why. This really helped me calm down. My anxiety and anger was through the roof, and this really helped calm me down, distract me, and clear my head. I would like to clarify here, because I noticed a lot of people misreading it, but the employee was never buying anything, especially not our actual bed that I was sleeping on. He was picking up a free spare bed frame because Amazon is kinda weird in how they fix things apparently. I really have no idea why or how they ended up in the bedroom. I will eventually find out, and that will be in the update, which I will update the post with an update when I have one. I tried to be as polite as possible in my replies, but a few times my temper did flare a bit. I apologize for that. I admittedly haven't slept since all this happened, so I'm pretty impressed I can spell, still haha. I'd like to especially thank the men that apologized for what I dealt with. With how the world is going about that was really wonderful to see. And thank you to every woman that defended me and lifted me up. Your aggression was honestly sweet as hell. I genuinely appreciate your kindness. When the time comes, I'm gonna let him explain himself, listen, and explain myself as well. I will apologize for snapping only if he actually shows remorse for what he did and understands how wrong it was. If he makes excuses, I'm not going to meet in the middle. I know a lot of you were mad about sleeping on the couch. I did not sleep at all, of course, but when we've clashed before, he almost always takes the couch, so I don't see it as unreasonable. But I get where you are coming from. That's the goal. And yes, I am reevaluating my relationship with him even before I hear him out. I'm not going to act rashly. It's really impossible to explain a 3-year relationship in one post, and I know everyone wants to hear every detail, but not every detail is meant for strangers. No offense, I love all the advice and support you've given me, but I am considering leaving him, and I do have a plan if it comes to that. I always have, in all honesty. But I really need to close my eyes right now, especially now that my chest doesn't hurt. Thank you, dearly, once again. I'll post the update when I have one, and I'll try to reply to people, because I always feel like I should when you put in the time to try and help me. Thank you. Update. I broke up with him. When he finally admitted he brought him in there to see the bed, he basically said, all my reasoning for not being okay with it is stupid, that I was dressed and under a cover, and it was fine. He said basically everything that everyone said in the comments and refused to see any wrong in his actions, besides one brief admittance that he could see how I was uncomfortable, but in the same breath said he couldn't imagine how I'd feel violated and thus wouldn't validate my feelings. So I broke up with him, even though I probably should have waited until I was not at the end of the month and could more comfortably find a place to live. I'm fine. He just went off into the other room and laid down on the couch. I'm not concerned for my safety yet, but if I become so, I'll be able to stay with a friend. I can afford to move once I find a place. It just takes time. No, I won't take the couch, haha. It was a long conversation of me desperately trying to get him to understand all this, was just admitting he was wrong and just apologizing. I couldn't get that much. Looks like I didn't know him after all.